Queria dar boas-vindas e agradecer a presença, dizer bem-vindos ao Brasil, para quem não é do Brasil, boas-vindas ao Rio de Janeiro, para quem não é do Rio de Janeiro, e boas-vindas a esse evento, ao Sustainable Brands 2014, um evento que é apresentado pela Natura e pela PEX Brasil. Quem está vindo para esse evento pela segunda vez? Só uma rápida enquete. Ótimo, legal. Então, vocês vão perceber, e eu conto para os novos no evento, que o evento cresceu. O evento cresceu no número de palestrantes internacionais, o evento cresceu em tamanho, a gente tem vocês aqui. O evento está crescendo no mundo, a gente vai ouvir um pouco sobre isso logo mais pela KoAnn, a fundadora desse evento no mundo. E estamos aqui, então, para falar sobre reimaginar, redesenhar e regenerar o presente. Eu acredito que é isso, acho que é para isso que vocês estão aqui. Eu vou falar uma frase que eu gosto muito, inclusive eu tenho ela tatuada, que é: o futuro já está aqui, ele só não está bem distribuído ainda. É uma frase de um autor, um escritor, que escrevia sobre ficção científica lá nos anos 80, falando sobre o futuro, que é o futuro que está aqui agora. E eu acho legal de um evento como esse, com tanta inspiração, com histórias incríveis que vão ser contadas pelas pessoas aqui. Esse evento é importante, porque ele mostra muitos sinais de futuro no presente. Então, acho que aqui o futuro se organiza um pouco, a gente vai ver ele condensado nesse evento, a gente vai receber 2 dias de muita inspiração sobre o futuro para a gente poder agir no presente. Então, eu queria chamar agora o Renato Terzi, que é o nosso host da SulAmérica. Ele é o Vice Presidente de Planejamento e Marketing da SulAmérica, que vai vir aqui dar umas palavrinhas para vocês. Renato.
Bom dia a todos. Meu nome é Renato Terzi, como a Carla falou, eu sou vice-presidente de Planejamento e Marketing da SulAmérica, responsável pelo que estamos fazendo hoje aqui. E queria, como executivo da empresa, dar as boas-vindas a todos vocês ao Sustainable Brands 2014. Boas-vindas ao evento e bem-vindos à nossa casa. Se vocês me permitem também um pouco extrapolar o meu papel de executivo da companhia, gostaria de reforçar as boas-vindas que a Carla deu ao Rio de Janeiro, a essa maravilhosa cidade que hoje é sede de grandes eventos mundiais, como a Jornada Mundial da Juventude, a Copa do Mundo, as Olimpíadas, e de centenas de grandes eventos das mais diversas atividades, como este que nós estamos vivendo aqui. A SulAmérica tem a sua sede nessa cidade há 118 anos e é um importante protagonista no crescimento e desenvolvimento da cidade, em especial nessa região da cidade. Em especial porque temos aqui a nossa nova sede, nosso novo prédio e também esse nosso centro de convenções. Participamos ativamente com uma rádio na cidade, com diversas ações de promoção e renovação dessa nossa maravilhosa cidade que é o Rio de Janeiro. A SulAmérica é uma empresa de seguros e de serviços financeiros. Vocês podem imaginar os imensos desafios que estão na nossa trajetória para construir, nesta sociedade de profunda transformação que estamos vivendo, um ambiente saudável e de desenvolvimento pessoal seguro e próspero para cada cidadão. São esses desafios que nos trazem aqui hoje, né? Sermos patrocinadores do Sustainable Brands 2014 é uma forma de demonstrar o nosso compromisso com o modelo sustentável e com uma busca incessante e interminável desse modelo. O modelo sustentável hoje integra a visão da companhia, está nos nossos valores e, mais do que tudo, ele integra e complementa cada vez mais aos nossos modelos e práticas de gestão do dia a dia. A SulAmérica é signatária ou participante de diversos acordos globais, como o Principles for Sustainable Insurance, Principle for Responsible Investments, e já pelo 5º ano consecutivo é participante, é membro, uma das ações que compõem o Índice de Sustentabilidade Empresarial da BMF Bovespa, a Bolsa de Valores do Estado de São Paulo. Por tudo isso, hoje nos sentimos habilitados e capacitados para patrocinar o Sustainable Brands 2014. E é uma honra ter vocês todos aqui conosco. Eu espero, todos nós da SulAmérica esperamos contribuir para que esses 2 dias sejam dias de reflexão, de compartilhamento, de crescimento, para que todos nós possamos construir empresas melhores e, consequentemente, muito seguramente, uma sociedade melhor no futuro. Bem-vindos ao evento, bem-vindos à nossa casa e bem-vindos ao Rio de Janeiro. Obrigado.
Bom, vocês chegando aqui no evento e a gente olhando para esse palco aqui, a gente vê que existe um projeto também arquitetônico de cenografia aqui nos envolvendo. E eu queria chamar o meu querido Marko Brajovic, arquiteto croata brasileiro, para falar um pouquinho para a gente sobre essa cenografia, sobre esse bambu. Vem aqui, Marko.
Olá, bom dia. Bom, agradeço a todos, Sustainable Brand, Report, Carla. Vou ser bem breve. O que eu queria falar um pouco é da importância da cenografia hoje em dia nos eventos que estão chegando, nos eventos que existem, e demonstrando isso através de qual foi a nossa estratégia de criar esta cenografia desse evento. Sempre em parceria com a Report, definimos uns parâmetros de desenvolvimento de uma cenografia que seja coerente tanto com o tema quanto com as necessidades e urgência da cenografia mudar de formatos. Bom, o Learning from Nature é um pouco um slogan que a gente usa. Eu sou Marko Brajovic, sou diretor criativo, arquiteto e fundador do ateliê Marko Brajovic. Nossa atuação é na área de arquitetura, cenografia e design estratégico. Neste caso, aplicado a espaços que a gente chama de espaços sensoriais. A gente queria criar uma experiência sensorial. Também vocês estão sentindo o cheiro do bambu. Acho que isso é um aspecto muito interessante da cenografia. Podemos seguir? Próximo slide. Ok. Tem aqui? Ótimo. Ok, qual foi a nossa estratégia base? Nós fomos inspirados, nesse caso, por a Vitória Regi. Não? A gente queria naturalizar ainda mais o evento no Brasil e, nesse caso, usar um organismo bastante local. Não? A Vitória Regi, ela não só como inspirados por a forma, mas usar a metodologia da biomimética, nesse caso, de uma forma bastante, dizemos, superficial, porém ainda válida, de considerar as Vitória Regi tanto como formato quanto como organização entre elas. E uma coisa interessante é que as Vitórias Regi, de fato, elas são conectadas todas por baixo por um sistema de raízes. Esta metáfora também para nós é muito importante. Se tem uma atuação, dizemos, mais estratégica na organização das Vitórias Regi entre si, mas que nos interessa muito também esta conexão entre todas. Todas compartilham as raízes entre si. Essas raízes são vocês, são as relações que vocês vão criar aqui, é nosso sistema online do evento, nosso sistema local e global do Sustainable Brands. Esta é a conexão entre vocês. E o resultado que nós vemos na superfície, só na superfície são os estandes, mas a questão é muito mais profunda. Essa foi a nossa metáfora. A parte dos cromatismos também, ele relaciona os cromatismos da marca, do Sustainable Brand, com também os pigmentos das Vitórias Regi. E aí começamos a pensar o evento como todo. Não? O evento não é só, para nós a cenografia não é decoração, para nós a cenografia é criação de senso, de sentido e de comunicação através da sensorialidade do espaço. Aqui vocês podem perceber que temos uma parte da Expo, não? Onde estão expostos o lounge, onde estão expostos os estandes, e essas nossas Vitórias Regi se organizam entre si, criando um espaço permeável. A gente acredita que o evento tem que ser um espaço permeável, de encontros, reencontros, de coincidências, de se perder e de se reencontrar para descobrir os espaços e os estandes. Outra coisa importante é o diálogo entre os estandes. Aquela coisa darwiniana, não, que foi mal interpretada, que o mais forte sobrevive. Acho que ou todos sobreviveram, ninguém sobrevive. Assim funciona realmente a natureza. Não? Esta sinergia entre também os estandes é fundamental. Esta comunicação entre os estandes e entre as marcas nos pareceu muito importante. Assim que tem uma permeabilidade, uma transparência entre os estandes. O material o bambu, um grande amigo que me segue já há muitos anos, mas um difícil, amigo, difícil desenhar com o bambu, projetar com o bambu, para não ser uma cenografia rústica. A gente não queria, como diria o querido Fregelli, queremos uma cenografia eco-sexy, não? E o bambu usado nesta forma, acho que ele funciona como comunicação e como material. Claramente, a questão do bambu é muito mais profunda, aqui tem tempo e vontade, é um mundo fantástico. Qual foi o nosso processo morfogênico assim, da forma? Como foram geradas as formas? Os estandes, claro, estão na forma mais básica, mais controlada, porque o importante são os produtos que estão expostos nos estandes. Aqui a cenografia ela tem que transmitir também uma comunicação um pouco mais forte e dinâmica, e aqui o que usamos, nós trabalhamos muito com software paramétrico, a gente acredita nesse artesanato digital, como a gente chama, juntar a tecnologia com a natureza, e nesse caso a gente usa software paramétricos para parametrizar formas. Esta forma ela foi definida, foi desenhada com parâmetro de curvas de desmatamento da Mata Atlântica. Toda a forma final está definida por este parâmetro, por esse código genético do software. Esta forma, origem da forma que vocês estão vendo, este parâmetro em modelo 3D, que depois foi parametrizado e construído fisicamente. Essa relação entre natureza e tecnologia, como uma simbiose que supera um pouco o momento industrial, isso nos interessa tanto nos materiais, quanto no processo, quanto na atitude das nossas cenografias. Muito obrigado, espero que curtam, que toquem no material e que se relacionem com este espaço. Obrigado.
Bom, eu queria, antes de chamar a próxima pessoa que virá aqui, acho importante a gente agradecer a Repórter Sustentabilidade, porque sem eles esse evento não teria sido possível, eles são os responsáveis por trazerem o evento para o Brasil. Então eu queria pedir uma salva de palmas sim, para a Repórter. E agora eu vou chamar uma pessoa que criou o conceito desse evento, que criou tudo isso, e está aqui hoje conosco, a KoAnn Skrzyniarz. Espero que eu tenha acertado o sobrenome dela. E queria convidá-la aqui para falar um pouco sobre essa perspectiva global do Sustainable Brands Worldwide. KoAnn?
No, I think I'm okay. Hello, good morning. Allow me to come front and center for a moment. Before we start, I'm going to go back and get my clicker, but before we start, I want to ask you all to introduce yourself to the person sitting on either side of you, if you haven't already. So start and say, thank you very much for that. All right, that already feels better to me, and it feels a little like what it is that we intend today here, and also on a global stage, which is about not just creating an event, but building a community. And I'm very, very honored and humbled to be here today. I am here to share a little bit about what we're doing globally, and to mostly learn from you, because I love Marko's introduction of the space and what was underneath the space, this idea of building organically a connection between pods of thinking and activity around the world. And underneath there does lie some connection of intention, but really I'm interested here to learn what's happening in Brazil as it relates to what's going on in the rest of the world. We'll give you a little bit of an update about sustainable brands. We started in 2006 with this perspective that the 21st century was going to be reflective of a major paradigm shift in the world about the role of business. And not only because of climate change, but because of a whole number of other global macro trends, from resource scarcity to social inequality and so forth, that were leading to the need for a reassessment of the role of sustainability in business. And so we set about to change the conversation really away from sustainability as a responsibility or a a cost reduction strategy, and really to present sustainability as a platform for innovation and opportunity for business in the 21st century. And as it happens, I think we are a reflection of the fact that the world is beginning to wake up to that fact. In 2007, we held a first conference. It was smaller than this, about 250 people. It came into a room. We brought people together who we felt like understood the vision for the future, and we brought them together to share what they were doing and to begin to learn from each other and to begin to build partnerships for collaboration to drive a broader shift toward a sustainable economy of the future. Today, in 2014, we will touch 750,000 business leaders around the world. And the fact that we are here in Brazil today is not because we are going out trying to take our conversation to the rest of the world, but it's because of the rest of the world. And first, Brazil was the first country to request to have our support in convening this conversation off the shore of the United States. So congratulations to your leadership. We have been continuing to grow, obviously. We now have a membership network also of 50 global brands, all of the top global players, Coca-Cola, Ford, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, Unilever, Natura, and many more that are coming together on every continent and in between events to continue to work on driving our conversation forward. As I mentioned, we are now convening business leaders on 4 continents, Brazil being the first offshore event. This is our second year, as you know. We are in Istanbul next month for the second time. I have a group of about 750 business leaders in Turkey coming together. We also will be launching in Buenos Aires, thanks to some of our partners who are here from Argentina. In September, we host also a conference in London, and we will be launching in Kuala Lumpur in October this year. And we have many other conversations with other countries going, and I hope that you will see this as a reflection of you being part of a global conversation that's really changing the way business works in the 21st century. And so, the conversation, the theme this year that we put forward as a community is really this notion that we are at a point in our journey where getting beyond just reducing negative impact and really beginning to flip the switch, as Natura so nicely put in their opening video, from reducing harm to really looking at how companies can be net positive and create social and environmental benefit as well as economic benefit. And so in order to do this, there's a requirement to really stretch and get outside the box, to really reimagine what's possible in the world, to really redesign things from the inside out in all aspects of business, and then to really think from the standpoint of regeneration and positive growth rather than more of a reductionist view. We see all kinds of ways that companies are beginning to do this, and not just in their external communications, but really putting sustainability into their core strategy. And some of the ways, I can't go into depth on them, but I hope that if you're not already familiar with the cases I'll run through quickly, you'll come to sustainablebrands.com and look at the cases for more detail, because there's some stellar examples of how companies are really redefining sustainability, redesigning products, services, and beyond products and services, even going to business model innovation, how they're engaging their employees to drive shift in the world, how they're working to make change easier for society in many ways, and how they're beginning to collaborate for bigger impact than any one company can do on their own, and how they're communicating better to help really drive a shift in consumer demand and behavior. Just a couple of examples of great cases that we see around the world these days. Patagonia, if you haven't seen the campaign that they've been running around Don't Buy This Jacket, when in fact they're actually growing sales by addressing the consumers, asking the consumer to question whether they need more things or fewer better things. Coca-Cola, who's really trying to make recycled materials cool and sexy through their EcoCycle campaign with will.i.am in partnership with Levi's and others. Unilever's Dove brand in the US has done a fantastic job of really addressing a core purpose around this need to help women develop a healthy relationship to beauty and better self-esteem. So beyond just green, the real trend is around thinking about how whatever market sector you're in, whatever product or service orientation you have, what can be a core meaningful purpose that actually touches the human condition in a meaningful way. I really recommend a book that I am very enthralled with this year called Sustainability is Flourishing by John Ehrenfeld, and it really talks in depth about this topic, and I encourage your consideration of reading it. Some of the great examples of product and service innovation that are going on around the world. I was fortunate to be able to have a tour on Monday at Brazil Carine. I'm saying that terribly, and I'm so sorry for my pronunciation. But the notion of innovating a soda brand to create actual nutritional value by incorporating fiber into the product is a great example of a way to create real, meaningful societal benefit from a traditionally perhaps a product category that may not seem to have a real purpose or meaning to it. Unilever creating a new category of dry shampoo that doesn't require water in its use is creating an impact in water reduction without consumers being having to really think about having shorter showers, for example. So they're creating business growth while having positive environmental impact through that. B&Q, which is a home improvement store in the UK, fascinating case study where they really had an intention to improve the environmental footprint of housing in the UK, and they were striving to encourage the UK audience to insulate their houses, and they were having a very hard time convincing their customers to buy insulation for their housing. And so they had a new idea, which was they realized that many people have lots of things stored in their attic in the UK, and it was a very messy space full of a lot of junk. And so they actually started a service of cleaning out the attics for people. And when they went to go clean out these attics, they found that once people had a clean space, they actually wanted to get in there and insulate it. And the end result then was to have much more energy efficient homes that saved energy. And so this is a great example of getting outside the box and really reimagining how you approach the problem that you're trying to address. Beyond that, though, as I was saying, the thing that's most exciting perhaps to me is the move towards new business models. And I hope that, how many of you were watching the peer-to-peer economy movement or the shareable economy? So I see only really a few hands, and I will say that even in the United States, this notion of the shareable economy is still fairly new, and people are to some degree writing it off as a fluke. But I will say we'll hear more about Airbnb this year. Airbnb just created the first billionaire from the shareable economy. Airbnb now has, I believe they just raised $500 million last year on a $10 billion valuation, which puts their market cap higher than Hyatt or Hilton. And that is one example of a wealth of examples of what's happening in the shareable economy around the world. And I really encourage you to take note of what's going on there. The circular economy, what about the circular economy? Are people aware or watching what's happening in the cradle-to-cradle or circular economy? Ellen MacArthur Foundation is an organization that's driving some of this work, as well as Bill McDonough with the Cradle to Cradle movement, who has been working for over a decade and a half in this space. This is picking up significant steam as well. And again, we'll hear a little bit about the interface case is just one example of a beautiful social innovation story where Interface is facilitating the collection of waste fishing nets in Southeast Asia and the Philippines, and recapturing that waste material as a resource for their carpeting. Philips is an example of a company that's moving from a product to actually a service model, away from selling light bulbs and to selling lighting systems, which is driving increased revenue for them and driving massively reduced energy for their customers. So great out-of-the-box examples. Employee engagement is another very fast-moving topic in the United States and elsewhere. This is where companies are beginning to realize that just in the 50 companies that we have that are part of our very formal global corporate membership network, there are millions of employees around the world that work for these companies. And our companies are starting to realize that if they can engage their own employees in helping them understand sustainability and what's driving sustainability, they have a massive opportunity to change culture. And not only that, they also have the opportunity to drive business improvement, because as it turns out, more companies are realizing that that people are excited and interested in engaging around sustainable innovation in their companies. And when they are able to get individuals inside the company to engage in sustainability, they're driving a reduction in employee recruitment costs, improved employee retention, and business value. SAP this is just one of so many cases where SAP decided that they were going to create an app to help encourage car sharing at their company. And they engaged the executives to participate in this, so if you got involved in signing on to the app, you had the opportunity perhaps to share a ride to work with one of the executives at the company. And the result of this program in the first year was 36,000 carpools. They saved 400,000 driving miles, which saved 88 tons of CO2 in that time. And more importantly, they generated 2,200 days of networking in the company. So it's in the United States, we used to talk about the value of communication that happened at the water cooler, which is those conversations that were maybe outside the direct requirement of a job, but created surprising connections and new learning between people that didn't necessarily happen. So this is creating new relationships, new ideas, new connections in the company. And more importantly, I have $3.1 million in business value identified, but it's actually, last statistic I saw was $5 million in business value. So a great win-win across both economic and environmental and social metrics. Then there's a whole raft of things going on where companies are creatively looking to help make change happen easier and more quickly. And a couple of different cases. I don't know if you've been watching the announcements that have been coming out from Apple recently. This is a company that I have been a very strong fan and advocate of for 20 years, until really most recently when I've begun to be uncomfortable with their level of commitment to their environmental and social impact. And I will say that I'm now seeing some really wonderful signals coming from them, including just an announcement this week, which is their commitment really to looking at their environmental impact in a serious way and their social impact, and specifically this announcement that they're beginning to now offer free recycling on any of their products for any of their customers. And so it's a great shift in perspective from them, and important. Nike is one example of this whole movement towards the quantified self. I'm not sure if that will mean anything to you, but this is this idea of giving individuals data about their behavior as a way to provide feedback that encourages and supports behavior change. And so for my company, I bought everyone in my team Fitbits, which is something similar to the Nike Fuel Band for Christmas. And we started a competition in our teams about how much we were walking and how many active minutes we had in a day. And you would be amazed at the impact that has in one's personal behavior and health. So it's an exciting innovation field. BMW i, if you haven't been watching the fabulous launch of the new BMW i series, very impressive innovation story. And they've been looking at all of the obstacles that people have to considering moving towards electric vehicles. They realized that one of the big ones was a fear of the ability to take a long trip because of the limits to electric charge in a battery. And so in order to overcome that fear, they made available to any purchasers of an electric car the opportunity to borrow a gas vehicle for free anytime they choose if they wanted to take a longer vehicle. And this has now eliminated the fear and created an easier road to purchase. And so, and then I think you'll see this in also many, many examples. The Sustainable Apparel Coalition is an example of many brands in the textile and footwear sector that have come together around the world to help develop new standards for sustainable textiles. There's a very large collection of companies in the US who have come together to really encourage the consideration of legislation around carbon emissions. Which has been very difficult. I know business oftentimes waits for government to create regulations before they drive change, and it's very exciting to see companies now coming together and asking for the legislation they need in order to take the action that they know is necessary. Cross-sector collaboration between multiple sectors looking at how to improve consumer recycling, helping consumers understand how to recycle better. And then finally, just fabulous examples around the world around companies looking to help communicate new values and new behaviors to customers. And I won't say too much about Natura because we'll hear from them later, but the notion that Natura is really committed to promoting the beauty of what's essential for people is a wonderful thing and super impactful. Johnson & Johnson recently was struggling to try and figure out what unique value they could offer to the community of consumers that they served, and they did a study and realized that even those customers that they had that were regularly recycling in their kitchens, for whatever reason, don't recycle in their bathroom. So I don't know what your practice is around recycling, but when I learned about this study, I realized it was a very big aha for me. I realized I recycle in the kitchen and my family does all the time. But in fact, we weren't recycling in the bathroom, and I didn't even realize it. And so they've started a whole campaign to help consumers realize this and change their behavior around that. And when you have companies like Johnson & Johnson who work on a global scale, this has the potential for really significant impact. And finally, I'll leave with one quick video, which, is it running? No. It's this idea of making sustainability sexy. So,
che cosa guardi, eh? Che cosa guardi? Mi stai spogliando con gli occhi? Poverino. Non puoi farne a meno. Ti batte il cuore. Ti gira la testa. Sei persa pensando che sarò tua per sempre. The Fiat 500 Abarth. You'll never forget the first time you see one.
So I think this is what's really exciting, is that we're at a time when the world is opened up and we have an enormous opportunity to completely rethink, reimagine, and redesign what a regenerative future looks like, and how we can make it sexy and desirable to build together an abundant future. And really that's what this week is all about. It's really about you. We are the future, and we in this room together have to think about what the future is going to look like and how we can make it happen. And I'm very much looking forward to learning from you and to sharing what I learned from you with the rest of the community that we're all part of. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.